I'm Dr. John, and this is your Maintenance Minute. Look, we're continuing our series on storeroom processes. Today, we're going to talk about one that's very rarely, very seldom ever mentioned. In fact, it's very likely you don't actually have a formal process on this. And this is for the process of bench stock. It's also been called open stock, free issue, anything that would be a consumable that's out in front, typically of a storeroom. That's where you find your nuts and bolts from Fastenal or from whoever you get those from. It's those pipe fittings, those kinds of things that are typically, again, out front. In fact, if you're at an automotive repair parts store, it's that kind of stuff out there they want you to touch. You know, it's the chamois and the license plate holder and the mud flaps and reflectors and those kinds of things. So we're going to just talk real briefly about bench stock. Now, these are typically consumables. They're not a spare part necessarily, but you can really rack up a lot of money in this bench stock. In fact, I was at a pharmaceutical company years and years ago. It was over in St. Louis. And I know this is going to sound like a made-up number, but they had brass and copper pipe and fittings out front as their free issue, or their bench stock, if you will. I asked somebody, there was rooms full of this stuff that, again, you could just walk up and take without even a work order. I asked somebody, this is a lot of stuff here. How much is this? And they said it's about $1 million. Again, it sounds like a made-up number, but it's about $1 million. So someone can just walk in and take out thousands of dollars. Again, pure copper and brass kind of pipe fittings and nipples and those kinds of things. So it's a consumable, but it can add up very quickly, especially if you don't keep track of it. These are usually items that aren't kitted. You know, if a mechanic or electrician comes over to the storeroom to get their job kit, they're likely to grab some nuts and bolts, maybe some pipe fittings or something like that on their way out as far as to complete the kit for what they need for the job. These are often things that you typically see in a vending machine. Now, look, we don't want to clutter up our vending machine with a lot of these nuts and bolts and pipe fittings, but it's not unusual to see these kinds of things in vending machines when companies are going to more of a point of use. My point on bench stock or free issue or open stock or whatever you might call it is, it's the kinds of things that you don't want to pay a storeroom attendant necessarily to be counting all the time. In fact, this stuff might be vendor managed inventory very easily by some. Maybe one vendor can handle all these items, but this can really add up and you could really lose a lot of money. People just taking these kinds of things. Again, they're not generally accountable on a work order. So you could lose tens of thousands of dollars and not even be accounting for it. Make sure you got a good process written down, people are trained to, and that you follow that process. I'm Dr. John. This has been your Maintenance Minute.